thing there, that's the monument to the Great Fire of London. So in Saxon times, the water level used to come right out to the Strand, and I think in German and Saxon, Strand means beach. So the water level in Saxon times probably went in as far as a quarter of a mile. This has only come up, you know, over the last 2 or 3 centuries, all this. Far less populous city in those days. The big smoke. Believe it or not, in the 19th century, early 19th century, the Thames was made a little bit narrower than the Victorians, which on the other side, they brought in a lot of dirt and silt from everywhere, I don't know how much, and they made the Thames much more narrow than it used to be, because it used to freeze a lot. This time of year it probably would have frozen, and used to have fairs on the Thames, but don't do that anymore. So now underneath the extension, what they brought down from the Strand is the underground, the District Line and the Circle Line and others. So what the Victorians did was actually quite phenomenal, you know, with engineering, not just Brunel but other people as well. And I'm not sure, I must read up more on the narrowing of the Thames. I know Christopher Wren architecture there, St Paul's, and the ever-expanding city of London, which goes between Bishopsgate and Aldgate. That was the original city, so the rest of London is actually a collection of villages that have become interlinked and interwoven over the years. That's Bank Station. If you see between the two bridges there, you've got original like stabilisers from another bridge, an earlier bridge. And then there's the story of the Americans buying what they thought was London Bridge, which actually, well, they thought Tower Bridge was London Bridge, and they took it out to Nevada Desert, and they found out it was actually not what they wanted, so they put a river there anyway. Some American millionaire did that. Behind that is the Barbican, which was a bomb site from World War II. Yeah, just I wanted to point out that this is the original Thames Embankment there, which you're watching. You know, God knows how long the Romans, whatever, used to walk along there, and they're still finding Roman coins down there even today. Very, very heavy Roman coins with elephants on them. Very heavy, there's quite a few. So they must have, Romans, and apparently it was like a collection of brothels along the Thames in those days, so anything to keep a legion of soldiers happy. So down there you can see the original embankment of the Thames, just along there. I'm not sure when that actually dates from, but it's pretty old. And you can see the new walkway up here in both directions. The ever-expanding city over there. You never know what you're going to see down there, different types. Sort of wire mesh, I think that might have been put there deliberately to try and protect the wall when they've come up. It's dilapidated over the years. And further down the river in that direction towards Dartford and Tilbury, there's a thing called the Thames Barrier, which they put up in the mid-80s to try and stop London flooding. But I don't believe they've ever had, and the idea of the barrier is it comes up and works as a defence sort of mechanism to keep water coming out, but it was pioneered, I think, by Mayor of London at the time, Ken Livingstone. But I don't believe it's ever come to that. We've never had enough water to need to put up the Thames Barrier. It's always sort of self-regulated. So evidently the Thames is a lot cleaner than it used to be. I mean, it used to be the busiest docks in the world at one time, all the way down to Tilbury, the other way, going east. And it's because of lack of industry now, it is much cleaner. I mean, I saw someone catch a roach in here a few months ago. So people actually fish in here, and allegedly there's salmon in here as well. So this would be fresh water going inland towards Richmond and Surrey, and in the other direction you're going towards the Thames estuary and become more salty water, a place there called Southend-on-Sea, where there's a lot of sandbanks. Fascinating place to visit, Shoebury-Ness. And you can just see the sort of legion of stones and different sort of rocks that have accumulated here over the decades and over the centuries. I mean, fascinating place. I mean, you don't see many people with metal detectors these days, but I imagine there's still quite a lot out there. You see the original steel structures there, whatever that was. It's like something out of Mars. You see, you get sand here as well as stones, and what happens, it just becomes, the rocks become smaller and smaller. I mean, a lot of this area would have been covered in water 10,000 years ago. I mean, there's a place called Hampstead Heath where there are still small circular stones, so that definitely would have been a seashore at some stage, a long time ago. And on the other side of the Thames, a bit further up towards Westminster, there's a boathouse, which is a very small Georgian erection from Georgian times, where they used to launch boats. It's still there, and it's still in pretty good nick after 250, 300 years. Treasures. There's treasures below this soil. Who knows what? They found, occasionally find a sort of eels with very, very big teeth in this area, and down by Canary Wharf, further down in that direction. The one and only William Shakespeare. Some people say he wrote it all himself, other people say a lot of it was written by a chap called Christopher Marlowe, another writer at the time. Now this is a place where you used to be able to lock up your mother-in-law if she got out of hand. There it is. Clink. Don't know where the slang clink comes from. It's probably when they used to put you in chains. There's one up there, look. Someone's poor mother-in-law. That's the way it used to be. Spooky place. Medieval times. The remains of an old church here. This was all industry up until 20 odd years ago, maybe a bit longer, 30 odd years ago. It was falling to pieces, and then they've just slowly but surely put in more tourist areas. Now virtually the whole area, this side of Tower Bridge and the other side, is all tourist. It's good the way they've combined the old with the new, I think. This original church. A lot of this is Roman walls. This is a very old wall. This church. It's called the Great Hall. So you can see it was much lower in those days. So this would have been probably a few feet above the water level of the Thames.
Description of your life.
The Great Hall.
One line bit. It's all gates.
See the way this was all industry at one time. This was like, I think, gasworks. You could drive through here 30 odd years ago now. This isn't actually a vessel. I think it's just art for art's sake, Art Nouveau. Reminds me of a movie called Time Bandits. Terry Gilliam's Time Bandits. It was like something out of that. It's HMS Belfast, the original. When I was at school, everyone enjoyed doing models of that, Airfix models. Not so in vogue these days. When we were shooting a movie called Thunderbirds, the last version in the early noughties, one Sunday morning we had a plane fly through there which was supposed to be Thunderbird 2. You can see here more examples of the old original embankment. You can see it's got like a sort of secondary reinforcement there. It's a bit like the bow of a boat. You're up against the elements, up against nature with this sort of thing. It's very, very low tide. So if you notice on that side of the Thames, the southern part, there's a greater sort of variety of bricks on the shoreline. But if you look at this side, it's much more uniform, sort of ballast or whatever, some original rocks there, and sort of less variety of stones. So it probably explains why the southern side of the Thames, as this used to be, well it still is, the southern side of the Thames was traditionally more industrial, until they converted it basically into a tourist attraction. That used to be a massive car park there, and the Oxo building is still there, but as I say, it's all now converted into basically a tourist attraction, so people can walk along the Thames, which is a good idea. There you go, you see, much more uniform brickwork. And my theory is that's because it was less industrial than the south side of the Thames.